Do you ever notice how much of life now revolves around health? Count calories, go vegan, go carnivore, exercise, avoid seed oils, food dyes, sleep better, take meds, take supplements. It seems like we've scrambled in the dark for decades, just hoping that some combination of this is finally going to work. And at best, it only seems to delay the inevitable. Sitting with our friends or family, the conversation inevitably turns to dementia, cancer, diabetes. Entire economies seem to be built on this cycle. Food, exercise, medication, endless healthcare, it's even become part of our entertainment. And through it all, we feel guilt. Like it's our fault. Like if only I tried a little harder, made one more right choice, maybe things would turn out differently. But deep down, we all kind of know that something's off. Because even the squirrel that darts past us in the park seems to maintain his health effortlessly, as if he just doesn't need to hit the help. And he certainly isn't counting macros. Well, today we're going to turn the page. We're not going to erase the good work that's come before, but show a new model of metabolic health, and one that's deeply supported by recent scientific research. And what's special about this is that it validates and unifies everything that we've been chasing. Calories do matter, carbs matter, salt, alcohol, hormones, inflammation, they all still matter. But they're joined together by something far simpler and something upstream and something that's actually actionable today. Let's start with logic, not science. Think about the calorie model. If our car won't run, we don't blame having too much fuel in the tank. Think about insulin resistance. If we press the gas pedal and our car doesn't accelerate, we don't blame the pedal. We pop the hood. And that's where chronic disease begins too, under the hood. What we're seeing now is a deeper common signature across all conditions, not just fuel, excess fuel, or insulin resistance, but low energy cells. Mitochondria, those tiny engines inside our cells, running in a low power mode. This implies that something is wrong under the hood. Why? Well, imagine you're behind the wheel, and your gas tank is full, and you press the pedal, and the RPMs slowly creep up. Slowly, not that high, only to maybe 3,000, far below your red line. What's happening? Well, maybe your car's in eco mode. Performance intentionally blunted so you can conserve fuel. That's exactly what's happening inside our cells. They're not fully broken, they're in eco mode. A survival program designed to save energy, store fat, and protect the brain. And in short bursts, this is brilliant. But if you stay in eco mode too long, you start forgetting what sport mode even felt like. You might even start to wonder if the extra fuel you're carrying is maybe weighing you down. So what then flips this switch? The answer was hiding in plain sight all along. A simple sugar called fructose. Now, most children will tell you that sugar is bad. It's the one thing they have to be careful with and limit. But table sugar, or sucrose, is half glucose and half fructose. And for decades, we focused on glucose because it fuels insulin, it raises blood sugar, it drives energy. And we've somewhat ignored fructose because it seemed quiet. Turns out we were wrong. Because fructose isn't fuel, it's a controller of fuel. It tells the cell whether to burn or conserve. And here's what happens. When fructose is metabolized, the enzyme fructokinase consumes ATP, the cell's usable energy, in one big rapid burst. And that drop creates stress. It produces uric acid and strains our mitochondria. This causes our cellular energy production to fall. Fuel starts building up on one side, and energy output starts dwindling on the other side. And worst of all, this low energy cell starts signaling our body, I'm starving. And so even when we've got a surplus, we're always craving more. This isn't a villain. It's actually more of a miracle. Bears use fructose to pack on weight before winter. Birds use it before migration. It's a resource management system that's tuned for survival. But basically, we just broke it. Long ago, gout warned us. A disease of kings living with that surplus, fueled by sugar, salt, and alcohol and all sorts of excess. It was a warning. And then when table sugar became cheap in the mid-1800s, it marked the beginning of a population-wide metabolic decline, further accelerated by supermarkets, and then highly processed foods, and the introduction of high fructose corn syrup. All of that only accelerated it. And today, unlike our wild friends who encounter fructose only seasonally, we live in constant exposure. And to be clear, fruit isn't the villain. It's fiber, water, and nutrients blunt fructose's effects in fruit. The real problem is the refined sugar and constant excess. So we might think, okay, I need to cut sugar. And yes, but here's the really shocking part. Our bodies can make fructose on their own. This program has many redundancies built in, even without dessert. And this is the revelation that unifies all the models that came before it. High glycemic carbs, salty foods, alcohol, savory umami foods, even stress, dehydration, and low oxygen, basically anything that feels like a cheat funnels to the same place, fructose. Fructose unifies all diets, all triggers, and even all metabolic models into one upstream survival program. And like all survival programs, what protects in the short term becomes harmful if left on. So picture our cells then, maybe as mail trucks in a city. If one breaks down, no problem, the mail still moves. But if the entire fleet has the same busted engine, suddenly nothing gets delivered. Fragile, low-energy cells lead to fragile systems. And then those systems start failing. And depending on where we're uniquely vulnerable, it might look different. It might be hypertension. It might be diabetes. It might be fatty liver, cognitive decline, even cancer. These micro failures in cells become macro failures in systems, and then chronic disease emerges. And that explains why 70% of death traces back to metabolic origins after decades of a slow decline. But this isn't a sad story. It's a hopeful one that the world needs to hear, because now we have a target. Yes, diet will help. Less sugar, fewer refined carbs, less alcohol, more water, but we've been saying that for decades. And what we're really doing there is fighting biology. Biology will always win. Restrictive diets haven't and won't move the needle globally, especially when the body can just make fructose by itself. So the real target isn't just dietary fructose, it's fructose metabolism. It starts then with fructokinase, that little enzyme that kicks off the process. Now, some rare individuals have a genetic mutation where they don't have this, and so they simply pee out fructose harmlessly. And importantly, they don't develop metabolic disease. And that's our clue. Now, pharma's already caught on to this. They're investing millions into fructokinase inhibitors. But nature gave us tools too. There are polyphenols that modulate this pathway. The most promising is luteolin, a compound found widely in plants like parsley, celery, chamomile. And even though the public has barely heard of it, there are over 7,800 research papers on its effects. In fact, one peer-reviewed human trial used a luteolin-rich extract and showed a 43% reduction in insulin resistance in just 6 months, along with broad improvements in cholesterol, liver fat, weight, and far more. And now, with liposomal technology solving bioavailability, luteolin is primed to move from the laboratory into practical use. This means it's not fringe science. It's early, but it's very real. And the evidence is strong and multi-layered. So what's the takeaway? Fructose flips our cells into eco mode. Fragile cells become fragile systems. And chronic disease emerges out of this. We've spent decades trying to manage health through calories, carbs, hormones, and diets, and all of these do have value. This model doesn't replace them. Rather, it unifies them, explains them, and even reframes disease as what it actually is, a manifestation of cellular energy failure. Now, other triggers do exist. Infections like Lyme disease or long COVID, they also can cause low energy cells. But fructose is the universal burden affecting all of us. So the answer is not blame, guilt, or waiting even for a miracle drug. The answer is to take control of the survival program with food choices we can make today and supplementation and science tomorrow, and with tools that are simple and scalable and already within reach. I believe we're standing at the dawn of a metabolic revolution. And here's what that could mean. Restoring wellness, because when we relieve the burden of fructose, our cells leave eco mode and return to sport mode. And suddenly the body feels high performing again, energy flowing and vitality restored. It also means restoring health, because when the foundation is strong, fragile systems don't collapse. Healthy weight becomes effortless, the way it exists everywhere in the wild. And we no longer watch our loved ones slip away to Alzheimer's, cancer, and other devastating diseases that thrive on fragile energy. And restoring focus, because when our cells are powered, so are our minds. Cravings quiet down, clarity sharpens, and we gain true agency over our food choices. We can enjoy the abundance of modern life with simple strategies that support us instead of restrict us, so that health just becomes the baseline, not the battle, not the constant conversation. When all this becomes normal, it will set future generations free from the exhaustion, confusion, decline, and even heartbreak that have weighed us down for decades. With the foundation repaired, the body's full potential comes alive. Not just longer life, but better life, built on energy, clarity, and freedom. And that's why this revolution matters, because shifting this single switch can change not only our lives, but the health of generations. And I am very grateful to be standing at the beginning of it with you.